this is Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Services and CBSI Talking Business, another episode of our series talking with leaders in the field of digital marketing, banking, insurance, customer service, and business education, all to highlight our team. We're based in Harrison, New York. We provide insurance-backed benefits to the credit card and payments industry, and we are very proud to be celebrating our 50th year. Now, today we're very pleased to talk with a digital marketing expert out in the Midwest, and that is Schwanke, who is the founder of Simple Strat. And Allie, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you. You're doing a lot of interesting things. Maybe to start, tell us a little bit about your company, which you founded.
Sure. Well, I'm the founder of Simple Strat, and if you happen to do any sort of research on a platform called Hubspot on the internet, you'll also find my face and my coworkers out online in a series called HubSpot Hacks. So overall, we help businesses get more out of their sales and marketing technology. But at the end of the day, really why I started the company is we have more and more of the sales and marketing process that happens without a salesperson. We are we're just in a world where we can Google everything, and we want to get as much information as we can before we actually engage in that sales conversation. So what our company does is we help people get some of those views and impressions and conversations in their wheelhouse before the salesperson, actually takes over. So that's through content, through podcasting, through videos. We're wanting to answer any question that a person has before they engage with you. So I've been in B2B content and B2B marketing my whole career, and I'm excited for really kind of where it's going, especially after the pandemic here. So.
Very good, and certainly a big topic. How much information to provide online, and also at point of sale, at events. Tell us a little bit about what are some of the types of companies that you work for.
Sure. Well, we work with, the way we describe it is B2B tech, which is really any company that has a B2B or a long sales cycle. We're selling business to business, and there is some sort of technology component that allows for scalability, but that's really on the marketing services and content side. So think if someone has a 3-month or 6-month sales cycle to actually secure business, there's a lot of content within that environment that needs to be transacted, nurtured, sent out, that sort of thing. On the HubSpot side, we work with companies of all sizes, all types, all industries, and we're really helping them kind of we're the HubSpot. That's kind of what I live, eat, and breathe, and we know the platform inside and out. So we can help you, build on it. We can help you transact on it. We can help you streamline, train your employees. So it really comes down to just really wanting to embrace technology and get the most out of it. So that's pretty much everybody.
Well, tell us a little bit about HubSpot. We hear of different companies who are partners and utilize the platform. How did you decide to work with them, and what are some of the key features of HubSpot that you tend to use for your clients?
Yeah, well, I'll give you a little bit of an analogy. So the way the marketing technology has evolved over the last, let's say, 20 years, 20 years ago, we were just putting everybody in the to field and essentially hitting send for the most part. There was some platforms that were early on, but we needed a way to just get a message out to everybody digitally. Email was a thing. Okay, then came social media. So now we need a way to schedule social, manage social. Then came, okay, we really need to make sure that we're using, let's say it was at the time, Salesforce or Oracle or something of that nature, and we need a database. And then the next thing was, okay, we need this database to be linked to all these products. So over the years, what has happened is think about if you had a house, and your house constantly needed to be built onto, and you didn't have a master contractor managing the whole process. So I saw this over the years where the database had to be synced with this external email marketing system, and then this and that, and you ended up with this kind of house of cards, and everything revolves around one central contact. So if you and I are, you're one of my prospective customers, it would be helpful to me to know what pages have you visited on the website, and what emails have you opened, and how have you interacted with our blog, so on and so forth. That is really what we saw possible with the platform Hubspot. And so we became partners 4 years ago and just kind of went all in. And today we grew our own business off of HubSpot. We get our leads through our content and lead generation mechanisms. And so we teach other people to do that as well, and have just found a ton of efficiencies when you take, again, think if you were able to just like burn your whole house down and start over. People can do that in this platform to say, I want everything in one place, and all of the activity around that sales and marketing scenario is on the contact record and not split between 10 different systems. So that's really kind of why we jumped on board and what we love about it today. And then obviously teach people how to do that well and not just pay for a really fancy catalog and park it in their garage.
Very good. Well, you mentioned managing social media, and more companies are using social media, using video like we do at CBSI to promote and talk and engage with more of our customers, prospects, and friends in the business. What are some of the ways that you help your clients manage and make their social media outreaches more effective?
Yeah, well, when you think of social media, it comes down to three specific things. There's social media that serves as somewhat of a verified credibility. Let's call it, if I drove by your house and your lights are on in your home, you live there. And people do that nowadays. Let's say I was looking at your company to bring in as a vendor for something. And I would go to your social platforms to make sure, have you guys been active? Are you still in business? You know, a lot of people will use social media as is what you told me in a meeting actually true? So we call that look alive social. So do you look alive, and are you posting things that are relevant and actually support the credibility and expertise that you just told me? The second thing is there's the lead driving mechanism of social, and that is I'm on social media such as LinkedIn, for example, in business to business settings. And I have a specific set of problems, and this particular piece of social media piqued my interest because it talks about a core problem that I'm facing. And then you actually, might go download that report or read that article. So there's that kind of very problem specific, like that's interesting to me. And then the third piece is really this, like the piece you and I talked about before we started recording of, especially during the pandemic, that was our community. And so we went to these places to engage, be entertained, to find meaning with other humans. And that is the biggest piece that exists for business to business, because like you and I actually met on Twitter. So yeah. If we talk about the purpose behind social, a lot of companies will think the purpose is for me to get content out. We're going to use these platforms as distribution networks. But instead, what happens is they end up being on a corner with a megaphone instead of saying, hey, everybody, let's come into my circle and let's have a conversation. So that last piece of driving community is getting humans involved, getting individual employees involved, and then having something worth talking about, or again, entertaining, which a lot of us need a break out of our seriousness of the day, which is where that social piece comes in.
Well, absolutely. Just talking to a consultant on connecting this week, and so important to be able to outreach and to listen and meet people who are doing similar things and generate opportunities to learn, just like we're doing today, learning from your expertise. And one of the things that we've been talking with companies about, certainly our banking clients, is what they learned to do in digital communications and other methods to work with their customers during the pandemic when they might not have been able to serve face-to-face. And what of those techniques and practices are going to continue as we hopefully are out of the pandemic now? What are some of the things that you learned and your clients learned to use that have really turned out to be effective?
Yeah, the pandemic was very interesting for a lot of us in digital marketing, because the things we'd been talking about needing to do for a long time were suddenly, oh my gosh, we have to do this now. And I think that it brought to light the fact that you sometimes will see digital transformation as things that are important but not urgent. And when they become urgent, they still can't be transacted as quickly as possible. So if you're not already attuned to using, let's say, Twitter to build those relationships like you and I are, all of a sudden you have to figure out how to speak Twitter, because you can't just jump on Twitter and talk like you do in everyday life. So there's almost a difference in language. And then there's the how do I use mediums like, let's say, video to communicate what would have been in person at a conference. And so we had to talk people through the importance of still retaining that human perspective in B2B marketing and sales, because the thing that we don't get in a lot of B2B content now that's virtual is a face. And the faces are the things that help us connect that value to the overall problem that we're solving. And so during the pandemic, we worked with a lot of our customers to do things like launch podcasts, launch video series, really figure out how to connect with their customers virtually. But we spent a lot more time focusing on putting the faces behind the brand, which now we're seeing that just completely take off after we've all been, I mean, how many messages, Ken, did you get that said, we hope that you're safe and, we're with you at this turbulent time, from a company that has never told you they care about you ever? Like, talk about lip service. So we now have this very, it's a facade that we know if companies take the time to break through that and show empathy, there's going to be rewards on the end. And again, we've helped folks with a lot of that through content.
Absolutely. In fact, we were doing some work trying to support small business, retail businesses during the pandemic. And one of the things I suggested to business owners is that the proprietor or whoever is a key salesperson at the desk become visible on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever it is, and that people were responding to make sure they could take care of the people who work in small businesses. And, I recommended to a company, make sure you have name tags on your staff and people know who the owner is, because people want to go support people that they know versus, kind of a generic brand. And so that was something I think companies had to learn. And I guess what I see also now is some companies deciding, well, we can go back to the way it was before. And I don't think it's going to be. The companies that learn how to communicate well are going to really be so far out ahead in each of their markets. One of the things you mentioned is, just this whole idea of content creation. And, now you go to an event and everybody's in the stands is doing their own video of a game. And I always say, well, now you got thousands of reporters in the stands covering a football game or a basketball game. What are your thoughts about how businesses have learned to get a bit comfortable creating more of their own content?
So are you asking a little bit more about the business taking the PR role of their own versus waiting for a magazine to cover them?
Yeah. I always say nobody waits for the reporter to call anymore. You got to go out and create your own story, however you do it, writing. But I found video has been effective as we're doing today. What are some of the ways you advise companies now on being able to tell their story and generate more visibility?
Yeah, really, when it comes down to creating your own content, there's a key question that I ask people in the beginning, and that is this what your customers want to hear, or is this what you want to say? And the difference between that is the difference between someone actually wanting to pay attention because it seems like you've been listening to the voice of the customer, or the company, again, just if you go back to the days of when this still happens, you still have PR and journalist outreach and things like that. But let's rewind 15 years when you had an important story to tell and you reached out to a news outlet and wondered if they wanted to cover it. The news outlet's going to ask you, what's the angle for the audience? Will they appreciate reading this? They're going to ask you all these who, what, why, where, and how questions to see if it's relevant. And that isn't happening enough today with businesses that have they've got content under their belt. We're creating things, we're saying things. But when I go to their website, I see a lot of the word we. I see a lot of we did this and we think this. If we flip that around and just take really good journalistic perspective and say, what does my audience want to hear and how do I give them what they want and then invite them back to the party? That's really what businesses and that do a good job with their own content creation do. And I will say that's how we do our HubSpot Hack series is we're looking across the web to see what are the questions people are asking about HubSpot. Where are they going to get those answers and are they getting the right answers? And in a lot of cases, that they're getting written answers, but there isn't a video that answers that question. So that's where our content came in.
Absolutely. Now you wrote an article not long ago. It's on your LinkedIn page and on strategic marketing and some of the key elements for developing a marketing plan that supports sales. And one of the things you talked about is making sure you've got the key measurement points on sales, where you're at, and then what kind of budget that you have to draw on to execute a plan. What are some of the elements that you work with clients about developing a strategic marketing plan?
So strategic marketing plans are interesting because I always ask people, what do you mean by that? Because some people will say strategic marketing plan and what they actually mean is strategic sales plan. So I usually will start by helping them understand what they're looking for from a key outcome perspective. And that might mean they need more sales. Okay, that sales drive, make the world go round. Sure. But if they need more sales and they're not getting them today, it's either a matter of they can't close what they have in their pipeline effectively. So they need to start with better content that helps them align their competitive advantage, helps them drive urgency, all the things that are more sales mechanisms. If they're not getting enough in their pipeline, that's usually more of a marketing problem because they might have a message that is confusing. They might not have enough activity. They might be doing a poor job of qualifying those leads for the sales team. So we really kind of start with like helping them understand the outcomes they're looking for and what problems are contributing to that there. And then we're going to structure things in terms of 3 categories. And that's going to be foundational activities, which are things like, does your website need some work to convey the message? Does your website look good on mobile? Are you sending them to the right consultation page? Stuff like that. Supporting activities, which are the things that are going to make those, like the driving activities work. So what does your tech stack look like? If you're trying to run your business and grow it on a spreadsheet, you're going to have limitations and you can't scale like you want to. But then there's going to be driving activities, which are typically the things people think of when they think of marketing. So they think we need more ads, we need more posts, we need a webinar. Those are driving activities to pull them into the system. And then the supporting activities are nurturing those folks once they get in. So the other piece that I often advise business owners, marketers, anybody to think about is you have 2 ways to pay for your marketing. You can pay with time or you can pay with money or both. There's advantages to each, but I think people will forget that we're not going to hire someone to help us with this because we have people internally that can do that. And I'll say, okay, why haven't you done it? Well, we just haven't made it a priority. If it hasn't been a priority now internally, you're going to be strapped for time to get it a priority in the next 3 months. So some of those things are things to think about when you're building your plan.
Absolutely. And we're so glad to have a chance to chat with Allie today, founder Simple, Strat, and working with HubSpot. Maybe to take us through a little bit about your background and what led you to start the company.
Yeah, my background is a little all over the place, but I started my first marketing, job out of college was I had a photography studio and I wanted to rid the world of stock photos. And it was a noble mission because I think stock photos, and I think now everybody would agree with me that they're very disingenuous. We see the same 5 people work everywhere because they use the same stock photo. But at the time, nobody wanted me to do, like nobody wanted to pay me to do that. It was nice, but you have to build a business based on what people pay you to do. So I started just doing weddings and babies and families, and discovered along the way that folks would ask, can you build a website? Can you do this? Can you do that? So I went back to school, studied a little bit more on those specific softwares and topics, and kind of it's been an evolution over the years of working in marketing and sales, and ultimately decided that it was time to build a company of my own about 8 years ago, and the rest is history.
Well, that's terrific. And you have a depth of knowledge and explain things so well. It's very evident, and great to talk with you today. Is there a final thought or trend that you see happening that you'd like to describe today?
Yeah, the final thing I would leave people with is think about your own habits as a consumer. We tend to, again, if we're buying a car, we tend to do as much research as we can before we go to the dealership. So think about that with your customers. What research are they doing, and are you showing up in those conversations? Because if you're not, in the absence of a story, people make up their own stories. So if they make up the story that you're too expensive because you don't have a blog explaining your pricing, then it's probably an opportunity to step in. So if there's anything like that and you wanted to even have an outside perspective on that, people can reach out and ask me, and I'd be happy to chat with them.
Okay, and just tell us the name of your website. I know you can be reached on LinkedIn.
Yeah, so there is at this point no other Ali Schwanke in the world. So if you Google my name, you'll probably find me. But if you go to our website, Strat.com, or go to YouTube and search for HubSpot hacks, and you will find us there.
Well, we're going to check that out, and that's a great introduction on HubSpot. It's a very useful resource, and we're just delighted to be able to talk with you today, and we hope we can do this again. And really, thank you for your time and the chance to chat.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.
Our pleasure. And this is Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Services. We're in Harrison, New York. We provide insurance-based benefits to the credit card and payments industry. Thank you to our guests today, and we'll look forward to seeing you again very soon. Thank you for watching.